And with that, I'm going to hand it off to the EPA.
So LaChala, going from LaChala Kemp first.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this virtual meeting on today. Glad each of you all could join us. Again, my name is LaChala Kemp, and I am the branch supervisor of the Watershed and Grants branch at EPA Region 7 that's located in the Water Division. In this particular branch is where the State Revolving Fund, or the SRF program, is housed, and where the work that is taking place under this proposed Section 106 exclusion PA is taking place, with Kelly Bertone leading that effort. So as you know, I appreciate EPA's mission is to protect human health and the environment. And so we wanted to get out front to provide this meeting on today to help you all understand more about what is going on. Protecting historic properties is an important part of that mission. So I just want to say welcome. I appreciate your willingness to take part in that endeavor by participating in today's meeting. And I believe that this will be a very productive meeting on today. And so with that, let me introduce our first presenter, which is Kelly Bertone, an engineer on my staff, and that is the EPA Region 7 point of contact for this particular project. To you, Kelly.
Thank you, LaChala. So again, welcome. We appreciate you all taking time out of your day to join us. And I'm ready for the next slide. So I want to go through some participation instructions, and thank you, Carrie, for going through some Zoom instructions. Please know that this virtual meeting will be recorded for those unable to attend, and this recording will be posted to the public engagement website, iowasrf.com/section-106/ and that'll also be posted in the chat for easy access. Again, we ask that you hold your questions or comments until we reach that public comment period of the meeting. And then you can continue to post comments in the chat as they come up for you. But then again, we'll take those at the end in order. And then at the end, you may raise your hand to make a comment. And everyone have a chance to speak. And we ask that you speak for about 3 minutes or less. And again, we can go further if we have more details. Thank you. So this is what we're going to cover today in the meeting agenda. We'll go through some brief introductions of the different agencies involved in this process. I'll mention some key concepts. We'll go through some roles and responsibilities of those various entities. We'll discuss a little bit about what the existing SRF Section 106 process is and the goals of this proposed Iowa exclusion PA. And I'll use the term programmatic agreement and PA kind of interchangeably. We'll discuss some of the proposed Iowa exclusion sections. And then at the very end, we'll have that Q&A and comment section. And we really do want to hear those comments you have and those questions. So just keep those in mind and start working in the chat on those if you would. Okay, with that, we have the, first of all, we have the Advisory Council on Historic Preservation, or ACHP. And joining us today from ACHP is Rachel Mangum. Thank you very much. She is the she's the programmatic analyst at ACHP, and she works with the SRF and EPA on reviewing undertakings for Section 106 compliance. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me here today. And if I can address any questions from the ACHP standpoint, feel free to ask those of me. So thank you.
Thank you very much. From the EPA, you've already met LaChala Kemp, and then myself. We have Kate Curl, who is the lead Region 7 counsel for this project. Kate, thank you very much. And then we have DeFonso, and she is our new Region 7 Iowa SRF project officer. Excuse me, I'm getting stumbled here. Anne, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Happy to help.
Next, we have the Iowa Department of Natural Resources, DNR. And of course, you met Carrie. She's the lead. She's the environmental specialist. And again, project lead. We also have Noah Poppelreiter. He's the attorney for Iowa who worked on this project. Thank you, Noah, for joining us.
Of course.
And last but not least, from Iowa DNR, we have Jara Sheets, who's the supervisor for the Water Quality Improvement Section. Thank you again. So now we'll go to IFA, the Iowa Finance Authority. The lead person there would be Aaron Smith, who's the Chief Bond Programs Director. And then last but not least, we have the State Historic Preservation Office, the SHPO. And from there, we have Sarah Andre, who's the Historic Preservation Specialist. So thank you all. And I might say here, the EPA and SRF started working on this project. Did I say SRF? Yeah, SRF and EPA started on this process like late last year. And as the concept of the PA started rolling out and we started discussing it, the SHPO and the ACHP joined us to assist us with refining the draft outline, which I'll mention in a moment. And we really appreciate their assistance. They've offered us a lot of guidance along the way, so thank you. And at this time, though, we're opening up with this meeting to get feedback from the rest of the consulting parties out there. So we really, again, appreciate you all joining us today. So let me go over some of those key concepts. In 1987, the Clean Water State Revolving Fund Loan Program, or Clean Water SRF, was created with amendments to the Clean Water Act. In 1996, the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund Loan Program was created, the Drinking Water SRF, with amendments to the Safe Drinking Water Act. With both of these SRF programs, EPA provides what's called a capitalization grant, or like seed money, to the state SRF agencies. Then those state SRF agencies then provide those funds and others for eligible water and wastewater projects. So some more key concepts. Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act, or NHPA, requires that federal agencies assess their projects or undertakings, again, you'll hear those words interchangeably, assess those effects on historic properties. And historic properties, we're talking about objects, sites, buildings, structures, and districts that are listed on or potentially eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. So you've met the players. Now let's talk about the federal roles and responsibilities. The Advisory Council on Historic Preservation, or ACHP, they promote preservation of historic resources, and they consult on Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act. EPA Region 7 is the lead agency. We award those capitalization grants to the SRF agencies. We provide annual oversight, and then we conduct tribal consultation. So even though Iowa SRF has worked with approximately 30 tribes for close to 20 years, EPA recently reached out to the tribes with a September 29, 2023 letter inviting government-to-government consultation with EPA Region 7 if a tribe chooses. And you'll hear more about tribal consultation in a few upcoming slides. So those were the federal roles. Now let's look at the state and local roles. DNR and IFA, they're the state SRF agencies for Iowa. They manage the SRF program and the individual projects. The SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Office, they promote preservation of historic resources through the Section 106 process. And then last, but definitely not least, are all you potential consulting parties, the Tribal Historic Preservation Offices, or THPOs, the local historic societies, commissions, and other consulting parties. We all need to work together to make this happen. So again, we do appreciate you being here. So a little bit of background. Section 106 of the NHPA requires that federal agencies take into account the effect of their projects or undertakings on historic properties, and to afford the ACHP an opportunity to comment on those undertakings. For the Clean Water SRF, a 1990 nationwide programmatic agreement among EPA, the ACHP, and the National Conference of State Historic Preservation Officers authorizes the state SRF agencies to carry out Section 106 consultation without direct EPA involvement, provided there are no disputes. But there is no nationwide PA for the Drinking Water SRF. Because of that, EPA Region 7 expressly authorized IDNR in a letter dated November 17th, 2022, to begin the Section 106 consultation process with the Iowa SHPO on projects funded through the Iowa Drinking Water SRF. And Section 106 consultation is completed in conjunction with the NEPA-like reviews at the state level. So NEPA stands for the National Environmental Policy Act. And so in addition to NHPA, there are other laws that compliance with must be documented, like the Endangered Species Act, floodplain protection, wetlands, farmlands, etc. So that's all done in that NEPA-like review. Okay, so now on to the subject matter of today, the Iowa proposed exclusion PA. I want to go through some goals here. Iowa wants to streamline their normal Section 106 process, which requires a project-by-project consultation with the Iowa SHPO. Now, Section 800.14 of 36 CFR, now make note of that because there might be a test at the end. That's your joke for the day, by the way, okay? That section requires that any changes to the Section 106 process requires a programmatic agreement with the lead federal agency, that would be EPA, as the lead signatory. So the PA would also allow DNR to send consultation invitations to tribes on projects on EPA's behalf. If a tribe accepts the consultation invitation, EPA could take over any further consultation unless otherwise agreed to by the tribe. Again, a lot of information being thrown at you here. We'll go through some more information. And again, any questions for clarification, please put those in the chat. Again, we want to emphasize that this Iowa proposed exclusion PA is for certain projects which are not likely to impact historic properties. And then DNR will be providing an annual report to the SHPO and consulting parties on this PA. So a few more on the goals here. The proposed PA will clarify the boundaries of the DNR's authority to implement Section 106 process for both clean water and drinking water projects. This PA would exclude certain activities from a full SHPO review when the facts show that the projects will not have the potential to adversely affect historic properties. That's really important. But even more importantly, tribal and other consulting party notifications will occur even when a project is excluded. So context to tribes and consulting parties will not diminish with this PA. There will be a 5-year expiration period with the PA. It can also be amended or extended. And all of these features of the PA will allow it to streamline and strengthen the Section 106 process for SRF funded projects. And it would allow water and wastewater projects to move more quickly towards completion when the potential for adverse effects to historic properties is limited. So again, we're not going to be impacting those historic properties, and tribes and other consulting parties are going to continue to get those notifications. And there'll be an annual report that will be provided on those excluded projects to the SHPO and any consulting party. So I mentioned about tribal consultation. Let's go into that a little bit more here. So the Iowa SRF currently contacts tribes and other consulting parties early in the project planning. And that's so important, that early contact, so that we can hear what tribes have to say about, any aspects that they have concerns about that might impact places and properties of religious and historical significance to the tribe. And then they can tell us how they want to move forward if a tribe believes a project might impact any of those properties of importance to the tribe. So we want to continue to do that. The PA would propose that DNR continue that work with the tribes. And this PA that we're talking about will formalize the November 17th, 2022 EPA authorization that I spoke of earlier for DNR to conduct consultation with tribes on SRF projects covered by the proposed PA. And per law and guidance, the proposed PA will include the option for tribes to request at any time for direct consultation with the EPA. Oh, one other thing I want to mention on this one, sorry. If a tribe does request an HPA Section 106 consultation with EPA, we will follow the Section 106 process. And a tribe can request direct government-to-government consultation during that NHPA Section 106 consultation process if they want to. So basically, a tribe can elect to participate in either type of consultation, the NHPA Section 106 or the direct government-to-government consultation, or both. It's really up to the tribes. Thank you. Next one. I think this is yours, Carrie.
Yes, it is. Hello, everyone. My name is Carrie Darnell, and I'm the lead worker for the environmental review staff here at the Iowa DNR SRF. I'm going to share with you our plan to use exclusions under this programmatic agreement. The SRF staff will complete an excluded from review form for any time we use an exclusion under this PA. Tier 1 level exclusions would be reviewed by environmental review staff like myself. And Tier 2 level exclusions must be reviewed by a Secretary of Interior qualified staff, either an archaeologist or in historic architecture, as appropriate. The Iowa SRF will obtain SOI qualified services prior to being able to use the Tier 2 level exclusions under this PA. SRF will provide Iowa SHPO, the EPA, and ACHP an annual report of all undertakings for which these exclusions were applied. And SHPO will have the opportunity to review or audit any of the projects that we applied these exclusions to. Some examples of excluded projects at Tier 1 for environmental review staff to review would be like lead service line inventories, video scoping of existing lines, emerging contaminant studies, lining of sewer lines, and water meter replacements. A few examples of the Tier 2 level exclusions, which would require Secretary of Interior qualified review: treatment changes, directional boring, installation of sewer lines, modifications to existing treatment plants, replacement of water lines using the pull method, and resurfacing of sidewalks and roads. Again, the full list of draft exclusions, which is currently named Appendix B in the draft PA, is posted to the website for your review and comment. We're working towards getting SOI qualified services, hopefully within the next 3 to 4 months. And with that, I will hand it back to Kelly.
Thank you. So you mentioned, Carrie, that Appendix B, that is on that same SRF website. So again, we encourage you all to look at that. We will share it here just as a placeholder. We don't expect for you to be reading it right now. It is a detailed document, even though it's an outline. So we do appreciate that. And we really would like your comments and feedback on this, because that's how we're going to shape the PA. This is the outline, and we need your input to do the PA. And we'll talk about it more later, but that draft PA will be shared with you again for you to comment on that. So the first part of the PA, this would basically have a background section, a statement of jurisdiction. So you'll have the clean water side, and it will be tied to the 1990 nationwide programmatic agreement that it has in place. And for the drinking water side, we'll be referring to that 2022 Iowa authorization letter. There'll be some historical discussion of the SRF program and information on tribal communication, as I discussed previously. Then we'll go into responsibilities. So for the EPA, we lead on dispute resolution. Also, we're charged with engaging in federal government-to-government consultation as requested and agreed to by the tribes. Now you notice DNR has the most responsibilities. We'll go through those, quite a few there. First off, setting requirements on the qualifications on those historic preservation specialists that Carrie just mentioned, and that will be retained by the DNR. And they will be in compliance with Secretary of Interior qualified standards. Again, they will be reviewing those Tier 2 excluded projects. IDNR will also identify confidentiality, I still can't say that word, confidentiality requirements and document retention requirements, and also appropriately curate artifacts. DNR will consult with the Iowa SHPO in the event that a National Historic Landmark might be affected. They will also conduct consultation with tribes consistent with the PA and set training requirements. DNR will consult with the SHPO for all projects that are not excluded by the PA. And I mentioned the annual report. DNR will be providing that to SHPO and also any consulting parties who sign on to this PA for those excluded projects. So, and this one gets a little confusing, so I'm going to tell it to you now and then I'll kind of rephrase it. But basically, the standard Section 106 process will be conducted for a project as if this PA were not in place, if the HPS, that historic preservation specialist, could not be retained by the DNR. So basically, if that HPS specialist were not retained or were not available at a certain time period, then they would default back to the Section 106 process that's currently in place. So now, last but not least, DNR will also ensure that the environmental review specialist, who are looking at those tier 1 excluded projects, that they will also comply with procedures that are outlined in this PA. So that's EPA and IDNR's responsibilities. Let's look at the SHPO and ACHP. So the SHPO will conduct technical assistance. They will also resume that standard Section 106 process if that HPS, that historic preservation specialist, is not been retained or is not available. So again, the default is the standard Section 106 process. In ACHP, basically, they will be requested, any signatory, anyone including EPA, all the players I've mentioned, or any of you all that sign on to be signatory for this PA, can request that the EPA, that the ACHP participate in the review of individual SRF projects, or that they can assist in dispute resolution. Sorry about it. If you know how many times I looked at this outline, you'd be surprised I was stumbling over those words. So let's look at some of the undertakings excluded from SHPO review. Again, that Appendix B, it's there right now available for you to look at. If you haven't done so, I would really encourage you to do that. A lot of projects are under there, under Tier 1 and Tier 2. We really want your input on that. This section talks about allowing IDNR to not exclude a certain project under the PA and instead go with that standard Section 106 process I mentioned. It prohibits the segmentation of projects into excluded and non-excluded portions. And it requires that documentation of exclusion that I mentioned to earlier that will be compiled into an annual report to the SHPO. And here again, more on that standard project review. For projects that are not excluded under this PA, it requires a standard process again. If it's a clean water SRF project, then it would reference that 1990 nationwide programmatic agreement for authority. If it's a drinking water project, the PA provides express authority for DNR to carry out actions otherwise delegated to EPA, similar to how the 1990 nationwide programmatic agreement operates on a national level. So that's a lot on that stuff. Again, it's a lot of information. We really appreciate you taking the time to look at it and then give us those comments. Next section, it would cover the unanticipated discoveries. It would detail the treatment of unanticipated human remains that are discovered during a project. And it would also detail the process of how to handle other unanticipated discoveries. There would be a section on dispute resolution that would guide the players, the various consulting parties in the programmatic agreement, and how they can resolve a dispute. I mentioned that it will be a duration of 5 years. There will be a section that will talk about amending the document and terminating. And again, that monitoring and reporting requirement. In Appendix A, we would provide a list of tribes and other consulting parties, like historical commissions, and all those would be listed in Appendix A. Again, we'll go back to Appendix B. If you haven't gotten by now that we really want your comments, I'll give it again here, that we really do want your comments on this. But basically, it includes an agreed upon list, again, the Tier 1 and the Tier 2, of project types that do not have the potential to cause adverse effects to historic properties, and that are excluded from further Section 106 review by the SHPO. Again, just the SHPO. The tribes and other consulting parties will be contacted the same amount as prior to this PA. For Tier 1 projects, those are ones that have no possibility of affecting a non-facility property of any kind. And the Tier 2 projects are those projects that will not affect historic properties or that will not have an adverse effect on historic properties.
Kelly, thanks for being able to share some of that information. Before we move on to our slides, Kate has an item that they want to update. So Kate, I'm going to turn over the floor to you.
Thank you. And sorry for interrupting, Kelly. I just noticed one mistake when you were presenting that I did not catch earlier, so my apologies. But I just want to clarify on the tribal consultation piece. We are proposing in this programmatic agreement that IDNR would both initiate and conduct consultation with tribes unless a tribe requests EPA do consultation. So EPA could step in at any time at the request of a tribe, but it wouldn't just be the initiation of consultation. So I want to make that clarification because, we would welcome any comments that any of our tribal partners have on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that addition. So again, yeah, lots of information in here on what would appear in that PA, and you will have an opportunity to review and comment on that. So with that, I think we're ready for the next slide. So how can you submit comments or become a consulting party? You can do both you have two choices. You can email me at iowa-exclusion-pa@epa.gov, or you can mail it to my attention at the address below there on the slide. And we ask that you get those comments to us by December 8th of this year. And you can also request to become a consulting party, either at that email or that address provided. And again, those consulting materials are available at the EPA website. And it's being blocked right there. Sorry, your little message is being blocked on. It's the iowasrf.com/section-106/ and that will also appear in the chat. So we really encourage you to go to the website, and there's other materials up there. That 1990 Clean Water PA mentioned is up there. The letter authorizing the state on drinking water projects is up there. Section 800, all kinds of information. Some light reading for a rainy day, perhaps, which we're having here in Kansas City. So the next steps. So basically, we will compile the comments from this meeting into a frequently asked question document that will be posted on, can you guess, that same SRF website, iowasrf.com/section-106. You'll have plenty of time to comment on that. We ask that you get it by December the 8th for that, and there'll be another round when we open it up for the draft PA. So then that draft PA will be updated based on this meeting and any relevant comments received within the comment period. And we'll make a draft PA available to you for review and public comment on the SRF website after we've incorporated all your comments from today, hopefully, and also by the December 8th time period. And then basically at this point, I think we're just about ready. Recording will be stopping soon. And then we will be looking at the chat comments, and they'll be opening up comments for the meeting here by raising your hand. And the staff from the staff from the SRF program are monitoring to see who has raised their hand first. So it'll be all fair.
Kelly, I will stop the recording so we have the presentation separate from the comment and question period. I will start a new recording for that portion.
Thank you.